Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 16 of the Vuelta España 2022. Now, today's stage at 188 kilometers, 120 miles in length. It's the first day after the third rest stage, so all the riders should be rested up, and they're going to have plenty of time to open up their legs throughout today's stage because nothing happens throughout the beginning of the stage, but you do want to tune in to the finish. Probably tune in at about 15 kilometers to go if you got the time, but definitely tune in from 5 kilometers all the way to the finish because you don't want to miss today's finishing stage 16 here at the Vuelta España. Now when the racing starts, we got two riders going up in the road. They got about a 2-3 minute gap on the peloton being led by Trek Segafredo and Cofidis. If you remember right, it was Cofidis' Brian Cocard that put on a dominating display on stage 13 to get second on the stage, coming from 7th place back. So Cofidis believe that the finish of today's stage with 8% ramps going into the line, that they stand a good chance with Brian Cocard if his legs have been recovering after yesterday's rest stage. Trek Segafredo are chasing full gas because they won that stage 13 uphill finish, so they like today's stage to get a second stage victory for Mads Pedersen for Trek Segafredo. With those two teams working, they got two riders only that they're chasing. It's Euskaltel-Euskadi's Mate up there and Burgos BH Anders Okamika. Now, with those two riders up there, they got no chance throughout today's stage, and the biggest the gap will get up to is about three and a half minute gap up there on the two Trek Segafredo and Cofidis team chasing back there. Now, with about 55 kilometers to go, there's a bit of an incident with Movistar as we see the rider's foot come out of the peloton there, sticking out just to the left side of the road. All of a sudden, the bike exits hard left, misses the spectator, just misses the cars parked there, drops down the little embankment there of the dirt road and then into the forest and disappears. Now later, the cameras will show Nelson Oliveira from Movistar at the back of the field changing bikes, so I assume that was the rider that exited stage left hard after this feed zone here on stage 16 in the Vuelta España. Now he'll get back up to the front group safely, and we'll start seeing all the riders reaching into their back pockets as they're trying to stay hydrated and fueled up for the finish of today's stage 16. Now, with just under 30 kilometers to go, the sprint line competition's coming up, and Mate is going to throw in a big acceleration and win the sprint competition. And then third crossing the line, Mads Pedersen to pad his sprint points competition lead to almost 200 points. I'm not even certain why he even bothered to go up there and get the points, but nobody fought him, so why not? Now we get into the action. Things are starting to get nervous with about 20 kilometers to go. 15 kilometers to go, it's getting really nervous in the peloton as they're going curb to curb, fighting for real estate here on stage 16. With 14 kilometers to go, they'll wrap up those two riders off the front, Mate and Okamika, and then after that, the peloton's going full gas. 1 kilometer later, we're going to see attack from Euskaltel-Euskadi, Azar Mendes that throws in attack as the road finally starts to go up with about 11K to go. He'll get caught right at the summit with 10K to go, and going over the top of the summit, it's Quick Step on the front for the race leader in the red jersey, Remco Evenepoel, to keep him out of trouble. Now they're bombing down this descent, going full gas, and we'll see Quick Step at the front taking care of Remco Evenepoel for quite a few kilometers, and then all of a sudden, with about 6 kilometers to go, it's Team Ineos at the front. Now, Ineos are driving fine, and then with about 5.5K to go, we're going to see Jumbo-Visma's Gesink pull Primož Roglic up to the front of the peloton here. Gesink will do a strong pull with Ineos at the front. Tim Miller still in the picture. Mads Pedersen's got some help from his teammate Alex. And then, of course, the Cofidis duo of Chimolai and of Brian Cocard locked there in the center of the picture. Now, with all the sprinters lined up, the only person really missing at this front group here of the peloton is Remco Evenepoel. The race leader's red jersey is nowhere to be found, and you got to know that there's alarm bells going off when you have Primož Roglic sitting up here at the front of the peloton. Now, all of a sudden, Ineos got full control of the peloton again as they're driving it into the finish. Just over 3 kilometers to go, Albacin de Koenig will jump on the front. At this point in time, this boy is stringing this field out. He's got single file line all over the place. Only problem is there are no other sprinters from Albacin de Koenig unless you go all the way back to about 15th position where you see Tim Miller. So I don't exactly understand what the MO from the Albacin de Koenig rider on the front was doing right here. It's probably just putting more nails into a sprinter, Tim Miller. My professional opinion, they should be wrapped around Tim Miller, trying to help him out to cover any gaps that might occur here. pretty soon because we're coming into the finish of stage 16 of the Vuelta a España. Now, as we get just a little bit further up the road, UAE team Emirates are on the front, and we'll look further back down the side, left side of the road. Primož Roglic is about 15th position back there, right around Tim Miller. Now he'll start to move up just as we come a little bit under 3 kilometers to go. We'll see him get up there right next to Mads Pedersen from Trek Segafredo with his lead-out man, Alex Kirsch, just in front of him. Now, Primož Roglic isn't going to hang around too much longer as we see him pass Mads Pedersen. He starts going to the front. We look at the UAE Team Emirates rider. I believe it's Oliveira at the front, looking left over his shoulder. He sees Primož Roglic coming. And then with about 2.6 kilometers to go, it's Primož Roglic tacking up the left side of the road. Oliveira does amazing acceleration. He was already on the front before Primož Roglic went. So this is a big hit for UAE Team Emirates rider as he's trying to cover the attack of Primož Roglic. We look at just a little further behind. It's Pascal Ackermann. If you remember right on stage 13, it was Pascal Ackermann that started all the fireworks, but that was from 300 meters out, and it was still a long ways to go. Now we're at 2.5 kilometers to go, and he's got a decision to make for Pascal Ackermann. Does he cover the move and attack from Primož Roglic from Jumbo-Visma, or does he let it go? Pascal Ackermann decides to close the gap. Now all of a sudden we look up front. Primož Roglic's first position. He's the one throwing in all the nails into everybody's legs. On his wheel, Oliveira needs some help. He looks over his shoulder. He's about ready to say, I can't do it, man. And as he looks over his shoulder, he sees it's his sprinter, his main man here to win stage 16 of the Vuelta a España, Pascal Ackermann coming. So Oliveira's got to do one more big acceleration to try to close that gap because his sprinter's coming quickly up onto his wheel. Now Oliveira knows he can't do any longer as he now has to pull off hard right. He looks right over his shoulder. As he's looking right, guess what? Coming from the back, Trek Segafredo, Mads Pedersen's doing his job to accelerate to try to close this gap up to Primož Roglic. Mads Pedersen throws in a massive acceleration. Danny Van Poppel, Bora Hansgrohe's locked onto his wheel. Now we just get another 100 meters up the road. We'll see it's Pascal Ackermann looking left over his shoulder, and Mads Pedersen's looking left over his shoulder. That's both these sprinters, Pascal Ackermann and Mads Pedersen, looking for some help because Primož Roglic is throwing down the gauntlet right now, trying to gain some time on Remco Evenepoel. Now you might say to yourself when you're sitting on the couch watching this attack, man, this is just from too far out. But if he wants to get some time on Remco Evenepoel, he knows he's got to go early because Remco Evenepoel doesn't like to be at the front of the peloton. Again, if we go back to that stage 13, that was the MO of Remco Evenepoel. He said he just wanted to make it into that 3 kilometers on stage 13 and then play it safe. So now, if I heard that, I'm sure Primož Roglic heard that before stage 16. So he's going from a long distance out, trying to get a gap on the peloton. Whether or not if he can win the stage isn't important. It's just time on Remco Evenepoel. Now, Primož is throwing down 100% with Pascal Ackermann locked on and Mads Pedersen coming with Danny Van Poppel. They don't quite have the gap closed. Now, as they come out of the left turn at the top here, we'll see 2 guys chasing 2 guys, and then just at the back, the 5th rider to try to bridge his gap, Fred Wright from Bahrain, victorious. He is accelerating hard. He'll come up and they'll close the gap at about 1.8 kilometers to go. Now we got to back the film up just a little bit because coming up that climb, guess who got a flat? Remco Evenepoel from Quick Step. He's on the right side of the road waiting for a bike change. And at this point in time, when I'm sitting on the couch, remember, it's an uphill finish. I don't know if the 3K rule is in effect or not. Clearly, Remco Evenepoel believes it is because he's not in a hurry and he's taking his time getting his new bike. But up front with 1.8 kilometers to go, as the 2 riders of Pascal Ackermann and Primož Roglic, full percent, 100% on the front, that is, got 2 riders chasing. They're coming together and they're all going to blend together, have 5 riders at the front. It's Primož Roglic on the front, Pascal Ackermann on his wheel, Mads Pedersen coming up 3rd wheel. But guess what? Right at this moment, when we start looking at it, we see up front, it's Pascal Ackermann. His legs are hurting, so he's swinging off just as Mads Pedersen's closing the gap. That means the Trek Segafredo riders got to do more work. We see those 2 come side by side, the 2 sprinters, Pascal Ackermann and Mads. They're going to pause right next to each other, not quite bump, and then Mads Pedersen's going to close the wheel, and we're going to see Pascal Ackermann move into 3rd position. Now, 4th spot, Danny Van Poppel, Bora Hansgrohe, Fred Wright in 5th positions. Close the gap. We got 5 riders at the front. We got a 5-second, 8-second gap to the peloton behind being led by I don't know who, but it's chaos back there. And, of course, Remco Remco Evenepoel back there getting a bike change off the back. Will he be given same time? I don't know. Even the commentators don't know exactly what the ruling is on today's stage. So it's going to be an exciting finish. Now Primož Roglic knows he needs time and he's going 100%. Pascal Ackermann sitting on Mads Pedersen's wheel because Mads Pedersen won stage 13. Intelligent decision. But then with about 700 meters to go, guess what? Pascal Ackermann's legs start to blow. He opens up a gap up front to the two duo of Primož Roglic and of Mads Pedersen. But we look back, and of course, the UAE team member, Ryder, he digs a little bit deeper and he starts to close the gap. Maybe Primož Roglic finally started to dive, but with about 600 meters to go, we're going to see that it's Pascal Ackermann, UAE team members, closing the gap. So we still got 5 guys up front with about 600 meters to go. Now we're going to go into a crazy chicane. It's going to start off right, go left, go right again. And it's Primož Roglic at the front drilling it with about 350 meters to go into this chicane. He'll exit with about 150 meters to go. And you're going so fast. Primož Roglic is flying all the way to the left side of the road. They're going to exit, and then at 125 meters to go, we're going to see it's Mads Pedersen. Trek Segafredo just throws down on the pedal, going 100% to the line. With 75 meters to go, Primož Roglic is finding his way to the back of the group of 4 in front of him. Only problem is we're Bahrain victorious Fred Wright. I think he's going to bump him with his knee or something happens. I looked every direction from every camera angle possible, and we can't see what happened, but Primož Roglic is flying to the ground. Up front, Mads Pedersen looks back over his shoulder about 25 meters to go, and he knows he has his second stage win here at the Vuelta a España on stage 16. Congratulations, Trek Segafredo controlling the whole race today all the way to the finish. Now, as we look back at Primož Roglic, who's picking his bike up, he's looked dazed and confused, beat up all over the place, and bloody all over. He'll get back on his bike, and he'll finish the stage for 35th on the stage. But when it's all said and done, they're going to give him the 8-second time split to all the GC favorites who lost time to the front group of 5 up front that crossed the line, with Mads Pedersen winning the stage. Second on the stage, Pascal Ackermann, UAE team members, who suffered all the way up from this attack from Primož Roglic into the line. Danny Van Poppel is going to be third on the stage to round out the podium, and Fred Wright, Bahrain victorious, is going to have to settle for 4th. Now we look at the general classification. They gave Remco Evenepoel the same time as the position in the peloton as when he got his flat tire. So he'll lose 8 seconds to Primož Roglic on today, which will move Primož Roglic 1 minute 26 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel of Quick-Step. Today's stage at the finish, man, it was something magical. So find time to go back and watch the last 5K, if nothing else, of today's stage. Everything before that, bit of a sleeper, so you don't need to tune into that because nothing really happened. But when we start looking at all the interviews after today's stage, guys were so roasted from Primož Roglic's effort, they had no idea what happened. Even Bahrain victorious Fred Wright, when he gave the interview, he didn't know what happened. Basically, he said he was such a full block, he had no idea what had happened to Primož Roglic. He just knows he got blocked in and then he couldn't do a sprint, but then said he didn't have any legs anyways. Danny Van Poppel said he was a full block all the way. He didn't know what happened to Primož Roglic either. And then if I give you my best guess, educated guess, I think Primož Roglic was going so hard from his initial attack, he never slowed down, probably cross-eyed, couldn't see straight when he was all the way on the left side of the road. Once he starts to move right, he sees 3 riders pass, and if you look just before he gets to the back of the group, Fred Wright is further off to the right side of the road. I don't know for sure if Primož Roglic would have saw him, so he was probably slotting in for dear life, just trying to hold the train of Mads Pedersen starting to sprint to win today's stage 16. Didn't see that there was Fred Wright there from Bahrain victorious. Probably got his bars bump from Fred Wright, who, of course, is starting his sprint. But honestly, I think when you really analyze this crash here of Primož Roglic, it's all on the shoulders of Primož Roglic. Probably just cross-eyed, couldn't see straight, and then just moved so far to the right with, of course, Fred Wright moving to the left. They didn't see each other. Just an accident, nothing on purpose, of course. But highlighting such a bad luck season here for Primož Roglic. Remember, he crashed out of the Tour de France. He had the knee problem at the Basque Country that cost him any chance of winning there, and then had to come back here for Tour of Spain. I'm guessing they were sick after the first week because Jumbo-Visma were just looking amazing off that team time trial on stage 1 and all the way through the first week. Stage 4, Primož Roglic won that stage in dominating fashion, much like the form we saw here on stage 16. Now the big question has to be, does Primož Roglic still have the legs that he displayed here on stage 16? Can he bring it into 17, 18, 19, and 20 of this year's Vuelta a España? Because if he can clearly show us off today's form that he is riding 100% again. But the crash leaves everything up in doubt, just like sports do. Things change in a split second here in cycling, and it does in all sports. But my heart goes out for Primož Roglic for such bad luck throughout the 2022 season. Now, tomorrow we start back into the mountain stages, so Primož Roglic doesn't have rest days, doesn't have recovery days to find out how good his legs are going to be. He's just going to have to hope when he goes to bed tonight that when he wakes up tomorrow, his legs are still good in this fine form of display that we saw here on stage 16, because it was dominating display from Primož Roglic. He's got to hope that form is still there. Remco Evenepoel is going to have to pay a little bit more attention now to Primož Roglic throughout these final mountain stages, because at 1 minute 26 seconds, the Slovenian is clawing his way back with every bit of effort he has. And you know, if he's got form tomorrow, there's going to be a big attack from Primož Roglic. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next edition of the Butterfly Effect.